is going on, FG3000? Back in the place to be, and in today's video I come to you more than just FG. I come to you as Pro Gamer FG that just beat Cat Fantasy all 17 chapters. Count them. And yeah, y'all see it coming soon right there. That means right now in the game, there ain't no more challenges. Now, the challenge mode is different. Don't count that, all right? Everybody knows that challenge mode is just basically a gacha games, new game plus. You don't count that. But now that I've been playing the game for a while and I'm safely outside of the honeymoon period, let's talk about this turn-based RPG that they call Cat Fantasy. Now, just calling Cat Fantasy a turn-based RPG really sells the game short. Why'd you call it that then, FG? I don't know. Now, Cat Fantasy absolutely checks all of your typical RPG gacha boxes, right? You got your really risque fan service waifus that push the absolute limits to the teen rating of these games. And if the default skins don't push the absolute limits of a teen rating, bruh, let me tell you, them skins will pull up the slack. And combat is pretty much exactly what you'd expect when it comes to these card combo combat systems. Some stages do require manual gameplay, especially if you're behind on power or if the encounter has some type of special gimmick. To give you a quick example of one of those gimmicks, one of the stages requires you to kill all the enemies all simultaneously, because if you kill them one by one, they will continue to respawn. So stages like that are going to require a little bit of manual finesse, but I found myself the massive overwhelming majority of my time playing Cat Fantasy completely on autoplay. And also, just like your run-of-the-mill RPG gacha, you got your typical daily resource grinds, you got tower climbs, co-op, world bosses, endless equipment farms as you hunt for the perfect stats. But most of your daily gameplay loop isn't necessarily just trying to check all of the gameplay boxes. It really just depends on what you decide to focus on that day. Because this is a game that even when you're done with your dailies, there is still hours of potential gameplay to play beyond that. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it just depends if you want this as a main game or a side game. But believe it or not, I think it actually fits both niches. Now, if that was all Cat Fantasy offered, it would still be a pretty feature-rich gacha game, especially compared to the competition, but bruh, there's more. Now, one of the main reasons why I'm enjoying Cat Fantasy so much has to be the uniquity, is that a word? I'm going for it. The uniquity of the heroes that you can collect. Where else can you collect cat waifus that also have a feline cat form? Where they do that at? Besides Cat Fantasy. Another unique aspect of Cat Fantasy that sets it apart from all the other competition is managing your cafe. Now, truth be told, early on during my honeymoon period, I was really excited about managing my cafe, thinking that in the future that these non-combat cafe-related passives and abilities would play a bigger role in how I managed my cafe. But unfortunately, all of the work that went into giving these waifus these additional abilities that only activate in your cafe don't really amount to any tangible gameplay decisions, because the fatigue level of these kitties when they're working, dude, they blow through stamina so fast. So I found out rather quickly, considering how fast your little kitty cat waifus get fatigued, you're much better off just focused on who's rested. Just put someone rested in one of the slots. Don't worry about what they do. Don't worry about what their passives. If they're rested, put them to work, which is a bit unfortunate. Now, I would love to see the overall fatigue drain considerably dialed back, so that way we actually have a reason to care about the passives that these cats bring to your cafe. But even with all that being said, I still feel that the cafe is a net positive on the game, especially when you start talking about the food, the drinks, the fishes. It's still an aspect of the game I quite enjoy, even though admittedly it's a very linear gameplay flow, right? You farm for ingredients, you click create, you make food, you sell it. But there's just something about discovering and unlocking these recipes, finding unique recipes based on the region that you're in. Things like that just appeal to the collector in me, what can I say? Now, when it comes to like food related farming, I absolutely appreciate that food farming stages take less stamina than combat focused stages, but still here, I think a better idea would just be having a separate stamina bar for food and a separate stamina bar for combat. That way, if one day you decide that you want to go farm for green tea and cheeseburgers, you're not gonna ruin your combat progress. But it's definitely not a deal breaker in my opinion, because you do have idle functionality that focuses on food resources. So the way idling works in this game, you have this band of katos. Now the katos are real cats, ladies and gentlemen. They do not turn into waifus, all right? Don't make that mistake. But these katos will idly grab your cafe related resources, so you're always gonna be progressing in your cafe no matter what. And overall, immersion wise, I think they did a pretty good job when it comes to the cafe. You can even take control of your main character in this third person perspective, walk around your cafe, talk to customers, stare at your decorations. And I think that third person perspective was absolutely the right move here. It makes you really appreciate the decor you have, and honestly, I cannot wait to unlock even more. And another point on the immersion front, in addition to serving your customers in the cafe, you basically run like a bootleg DoorDash service where you serve food across town. Now, at the end of the day, I know that this is basically a glorified dispatch mode. Instead of using heroes, you submit items, right? I get it. But again, for the sake of the immersion, I like the touch. And if all that doesn't drive home the point that managing your cafe and your deliveries is an integral part of the game, dude, there's a whole talent tree dedicated to deliveries. So when it comes to the characters, the combat, managing your cafe, I really have positive things to say about Cat Fantasy, but it's not all positive, right? One gameplay mode that I didn't enjoy as much as I thought I would is the bootleg version of Stray that has you walking around a cat and solving puzzles. It's a little slow and the puzzles are a bit meh. Another so-so gameplay activity is the fishing itself, I'm sorry to say. Now first, the positive aspects of fishing. I do appreciate all of the different fishing holes, the multiple different rarities of fishing poles, reels, lines, all the different baits and stuff like that. But I do hope in the future they get a little bit more wild and creative when it comes to the fishing poles. When I got like my 4-star purple fishing rod, it's just like whatever, I just bought it and it's not that big of a deal. I would love to see some skins or some of these fishing poles as rewards and events, things like that. Like, let's flesh this gameplay mode out a bit. And I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself right now, I might be, but I would absolutely buy skins for my main character, even though I only see her in my cafe and during fishing. I'm just saying. But the fishing they do have in the game luckily isn't too tedious. I'm still 100% free to play, by the way, so I don't have any like the auto features or anything like that. But I gotta be honest, after a few days of fishing, I just started to bite the bullet, using my Cash App currency to buy these fishing nets that allow you to capture 20 fish at a time. Because even though the minigame mechanics that are tied to fishing are probably one of the better fishing mechanics that I've seen in any game, capturing fish one by one when you need tens and tens of fishes is just not a good use of your time, unfortunately. Especially considering how much fish food you're gonna need to make your cafe a 5-star Michelin restaurant, baby! Saving the world can wait! So those are a few things that make Cat Fantasy stand out against all the other RPG gachas that we have to choose from. Switching gears to the core game itself, of course, you're gonna have a main story with 17 chapters that FG already beat. And after you're done with the main story, you then have the challenge mode, and I am sure there is more main story on the horizon. And while you're completing the main story, you will spend some time in the auxiliary gameplay modes that you come to expect from most gacha games, right? You got your daily resource grinds for EXP, ascension materials, endless equipment grinds that all can be swept once you successfully clear the stage. This is not one of those gacha games where you have to 3-star the stage in order to unlock sweeping. As long as you beat the stage by an inch or a mile, baby, you unlock sweep functionality. Now the game does have sweep tickets, but I am nowhere near even close to running out of sweep tickets, so it's kind of curious why they're in the game in the first place. And of course, thanks to that sweep functionality, the amount of time you spend doing your daily resource grinds becomes shorter and shorter the longer you play the game. Now there are some gameplay modes that are required for your dailies that do not offer any type of sweep functionality. That's going to be co-op, where you can co-op alongside live players or AI players, and of course the world boss. Now PvP wise, I think this game has a little bit of something for everyone. You got Master Duel PvP, which is a completely automated PvP that goes a step beyond quality of life. Dude, you don't even have to load into the game. The game automatically tells you the results in the UI, nice and quick. For my real PvP gamers out there, you do have Arena Live PvP that's available at specific times of the day. You know they do that to ensure that the matchmaking is as fruitful as possible. But even with Arena Live PvP, you can auto that bad boy as well. So if you're like me and you just want the rewards and you don't care, Auto live PvP, baby. And then lastly, you have Phantom Clash PvP. This is 3-team PvP, but it's the same exact quality of life as Master Duel, right? You don't even load into the game, quality of life, quick battle, you're done and you're done. And speaking of quality of life, one quality of life that's becoming a lot more popular these days is the automatic endless tower climb. So basically, the game will automatically go from floor to floor to floor until you get defeated. Unfortunately, the auto climb is not available for the elemental specific tower because each floor of the elemental specific towers require a key for some reason. I don't know why. Why even have keys, dude? I want to auto climb. And if we just stopped right there, Cat Fantasy would have more gameplay modes than like 90% of the gacha games out there, but dude, we still ain't done. You also have a challenging gameplay mode called the Void Domain. This is gonna challenge your roster to defeat enemies in a certain number of turns. You also have a gameplay mode called the Nightly Patrol. This is gonna be your tried and true roguelike labyrinth style gameplay mode. But here in Cat Fantasy, this gameplay mode is actually a season-based gameplay mode, which I absolutely approve of. As much as I like labyrinth-style roguelike gameplay modes in my games, dude, I am not trying to do them every single day or bi-daily. Bi-daily? I don't think bi-daily. Every other day. I'm not trying to do it so often. So having it season-based, in my opinion, is absolutely the right move. And so far, this game, only being a half-month old at this point, has already had 2 events. The first story event didn't require you to do anything outside of your normal grinds. It was basically your dailies now drop an event currency, use that event currency to buy some extra goodies out of the shop. But this event also came with a pretty cool little skeleton cat waifu, so I cannot wait to see how creative they get with these characters in the future. The second event they launched was actually a collab event. Now this event plays like your typical gacha story event, right? This collab event came with new characters, new skins, story, combat, and a pretty fleshed out minigame that I'm absolutely atrocious at. So after spending over 15 days playing Cat Fantasy, I feel like I'm gonna play at least 15 days more. So going back to the point that I made earlier in the video that this game absolutely is a main game time commitment, but it can also function as a side game as well. And the reason why I say that, at least for me personally, this game was very smart in ensuring that they had a PC client, because most of the time I just have Cat Fantasy running in the background, autoing things that I need to do while I'm on Reddit, while I'm playing other games. It functions, once again, a main game time commitment, but it can actually kind of be a side game running behind Genshin Impact or whatever other games you're playing, because so much of this game can be successfully auto-played. And then when you want to switch gears to make this game your main focus, dude, there is so many hours of gameplay on offer here every single day, and so far, none of the gameplay modes are really that tedious, and the ones that I didn't like don't really last that long. Things like equipment grinds aren't really that big of a deal because you have this tool to redo your stats. So even one of the most annoying things that we find in this game, right, the equipment grind, trying to find those perfect stats, is not even that bad here in Cat Fantasy. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I know the question has got to be, FG, is Cat Fantasy a win or is it EOS win? It's a win. It's a win.